Hey, I'm Alexander Creek, astrologer and intuitive. Welcome back to my channel where we'll be talking all about the solar eclipse in Virgo happening around 2 p.m. if you're Denver, Colorado, but generally happening everywhere September 21st. That would be this Sunday coming up. And chances are maybe we can feel this eclipse coming because certainly the lunar eclipse that we had in Pisces about 2 weeks ago, I really felt that one. And eclipses, as you may know or may not know, really tend to disrupt the normal flow of life. They tend to interrupt kind of like our daily rhythms, and they can really introduce some dramatic beginnings and endings in our lives, especially if they connect to our charts in a really, really significant way. Sometimes eclipses, you can kind of just feel them in the air. You might notice it a little bit in your life, but they might kind of pass you by, because not everything in astrology is going to personally affect you on a deep level. But let's say that you have Virgo, Gemini, Sagittarius, or Pisces placements around 29 degrees, you're probably going to be feeling this eclipse. So we're going to be talking all about the energy of this eclipse, a reading for your rising sign as well in just a moment. If you're feeling the vibe, if you're liking what you're seeing, make sure that you subscribe, maybe leave me a comment, let me know how you like the video, or let me know maybe how you're feeling this eclipse energy, because we did have that lunar eclipse in Pisces 2 weeks ago. You can certainly revisit your forecast or revisit that video if you need a refresher. I also wanted to let you know too, I am offering eclipse readings. So these are just kind of shorter astrology check-in readings. Sometimes we don't always need like a full year ahead astrology reading. Sometimes we kind of know what's happening right now and up to like the next 6 months. And those I do provide in those eclipse readings. So I talk to you about where the eclipses are happening in your chart, what to expect, how to work with it with your personal astrology chart, as well as talking to you about also other things that are happening in your chart, your transits, your secondary progressions, a little bit, looking at your solar return. It's a really good way to check in where you are in time and also what to expect and how to work with the energy. The link for that is going to be in my in the little info box on YouTube. It's also in the show notes on if you're listening to the podcast. You can also head to dogstarOracle.com. And if you just click book a session, it will come up in my little scheduler. It's not on the website itself, but it'll come up in the scheduler when you go to book any session. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this damn eclipse. Okay, so if you're on YouTube, I pulled up the chart so we can, see the damn eclipse and look at the astrology. If you're on the audio podcast, it's really not going to matter as much. But I do like to see the chart. So, okay. So this is essentially the second new moon in Virgo in a row. We had one right at the beginning of Virgo, and this one is happening right at the end. This one is an eclipse. And after that last lunar eclipse, how are you feeling? I will say that last eclipse knocked me out. That eclipse was opposite my moon. My moon's about 8 degrees of Virgo. The eclipse is 15. I didn't really expect it to hit me as hard as it did, but I definitely will not dismiss, a lunar eclipse like that. Cause I was like, well, that's like 7 degrees away from my moon. I don't know, and I will tell you what happened. I moved in with my best friend, literally the day of, actually a couple days before we moved in together. We went in together on the 4th, and then the eclipse was on the 7th, which was his birthday, which is interesting because it's definitely kind of giving hey, you're making some changes in your life this year with my friend anyway. But I'll tell you, that move was exhausting. It just was really exhausting, very depleting. It was really exciting because we like our new place, we like our new neighborhood. But when we moved, it wasn't exactly the apartment that we were expecting. We ended up switching apartments in the same building. I was having a really hard time getting used to the noises of the city, getting used to the noises of upstairs neighbors, which I did not know we were going to hear because they were like, oh, it's a pretty quiet building. You hear a little pitter patter, but that's it. And now I could fully hear footsteps above my bedroom. So what happened was, in true eclipse fashion, eclipses can bring insomnia. And I did not sleep for a week. And I was thinking, maybe I'll get a YouTube video out in this week, and I just did not have the energy. So it really, really, really took it out of me. and I was just wide-eyed awake for a couple days, and I'm finally back to normal. But that thing of eclipses really bringing interruptions to your daily life when it hits your chart is just really, it's funny when you have like a real life case study, because it was in the same sign as my IC, which is the lowest point in the chart, which has to do with home and family. It was opposite my moon, which brings in, again, more home and kind of family themes. So a lot was in the air with that eclipse. Even though they were good changes overall, it was still like wild, kind of unstable, very traumatic. My mental health was not good for a couple days there. So, okay. Anyway, so this is the second new moon in Virgo. And so yes, it is a solar eclipse, but it is also a new moon. So about a month ago, we had our first new moon in Virgo on August 23rd. So the Pisces and Virgo, so the Virgo and Pisces part of your natal chart, of your birth chart, probably have been popping. It really kind of depends, again, like how you might feel the energy kind of based upon your own chart. But these eclipses are definitely activating your own personal Virgo and Pisces houses. And we all have Virgo and Pisces somewhere in our charts, even if we don't have planets actually in those signs. So this eclipse is right at 29 degrees of Virgo, considered that the anaretic degree, meaning like, the 29th degree is like a special degree in astrology. It does kind of give this energy of like completions, and the 29th degree is just really loud. So this solar eclipse is a new moon, so we think new moon, new beginnings. This certainly can bring beginnings in that way, but because it's a solar eclipse, this one is conjunct the South Node. So there is a feeling of endings, releasing, letting go before a new beginning comes in. And this eclipse is exactly opposite Saturn, and which is now back in the sign of Pisces. And as you might recall, Saturn went into Pisces on September 2nd. So Saturn went back into Pisces on September 2nd. It will remain in Pisces until February 15th. So the fact, like, that really is, I think, the main energy signature for this eclipse, because this eclipse is about getting like fucking real, right? Like Saturn is, limitations, delay, hard work, how are you actually going to achieve the thing? So if we're looking at like, okay, there's a new beginning, it's a new moon, I think we're purging something. We're having some kind of final like realization, really getting real. This eclipse really, really wants you to get real. If there's something that you want to begin or launch, a goal, right? Wishing and hoping is not going to make it happen, babe. This eclipse is about really speaking to grit, determination, and realistically assessing how you will get it done and how you are going to do that. Virgo is a sign that's making lists, it's making charts, it's like analyzing, it's looking at how are we actually going to get the damn thing done. Virgo is an earth sign. It is very connected to the material realm, to the practical. It is ruled by Mercury, the winged messenger. Mercury happens to be both exalted and in its domicile. So it essentially, Mercury just does really well in Virgo, right? So Mercury and Virgo have this thing about being able to analyze, like critical analysis. This eclipse kind of really, really sort of provides that energy. This eclipse is also opposite Neptune too. Neptune is technically in Aries. So it's an out of sign opposition, but it is an opposition nonetheless. And Neptune, I think, will sort of make its energy known with this eclipse. So while we're kind of getting real, we're assessing our limitations. And frankly, by the way, before I move on from Saturn, this eclipse can, and this week, by the way, because we had a Mercury opposite Saturn. We had Mercury opposite Saturn on what day was that? That was on September 17th. So followed by the solar eclipse opposition. There is kind of, a little bit of a bummer feeling, or a little bit of like, I didn't want that kind of news, or it's like when you have the energy of Saturn so prominent, it can really, it's not super optimistic, cheerful energy of like, oh, everything is going to be amazing, there's an amazing beginning. It's like, okay, here's what I have to work with, and here's how I'm going to get it done. Saturn is not interested in like making you feel good. So there is that energy kind of hanging over this week and hanging over the solar eclipse. So if you've been feeling a little bit like, oh my god, like something is in the air, that's part of it. So this eclipse, like I mentioned, is also opposite Neptune. And on a really basic level, there could be just like kind of like a moodier, kind of sensitive vibe kind of hanging over this eclipse. So while we have this sort of stark realism with Saturn, Neptune can bring in some escapism energy, some really dreamy energy. The highest vibration of Neptune would be that, like, really connected to oneness, spirituality. But I'm going to say this opposition to Neptune, there seems to be like this spell that people are under lately, where it's like people kind of each have their own versions of the truth, right? So there is possibly this tendency under this eclipse. It's like there could be there's a possibility that folks might dissociate more. That might be like living in another reality, or just kind of making up their own truth and kind of completely ignoring this Saturn part. It's like, I can't deal with this Saturn realism, so I'm going to go live in this Neptune dreamland. So there's an interesting layered dynamic to this eclipse. A good way to channel this Neptune energy might be to really like let go, let God, surrender to this eclipse, because this eclipse conjunct the South Node, it's sort of like releasing what is toxic in your life. Releasing bad habits. There's some kind of like detox energy here, and kind of just like letting go of control a little bit with this energy. I wouldn't say that this date is exactly great for like, I'm going to launch a brand new thing around this time. If you feel guided to, great. But it's sort of like, okay, how can we release and let go of bad habits, of toxic bullshit, to make way for new good things coming in? And how are you going to be real about that? But Neptune here, there is something about like surrendering or connecting spiritually, or connecting inward somehow, essentially. But I do feel like under this eclipse, people are just going to be you're going to find people that are kind of living in their own reality, So this eclipse, it is a Virgo, so it is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is actually now in the sign of Libra. It went into Libra on the 18th, so the day that I'm actually recording this. I'm going to say, like, Mercury in Libra does kind of bring like an extra emphasis on diplomacy, on tact, on paying attention to maybe artistic or like refined things, and really kind of connecting in dialogue with someone. Like the importance of being congenial, definitely kind of comes in with Mercury in Libra. Because Mercury is in an adjacent sign to this solar eclipse, it's like, the new moon eclipse can't really see Mercury. It can't really see its ruler. So there might be something about like, maybe there's like a blind spot that kind of comes up around this eclipse. It's something that we can kind of get here, but that's the only thing I really got from this eclipse. There kind of kept being more and more aspects that I was noticing as I was looking at it. This eclipse, similar to the new moon in Virgo, it is making aspects to both Uranus and Pluto. Again, these are out of sign, so this would be a trine. This would be an out of sign trine, so a harmonious aspect to Pluto, the planet of power, depth, and transformation. Also to Uranus, the planet of revolution and sudden change. The new moon in Virgo that we had on August 23rd was more about those aspects. It was also making aspects to Uranus and Pluto too, but those were really loud aspects, like you plugged a fork into an electric socket. These are much smoother. This is a much smoother energy. This eclipse, this is kind of more in the background energy, but I think it's really, if you want to like embrace something different, a different way of doing things, bringing kind of this revolutionary, innovative energy from Uranus, that's definitely possible. And same with Pluto. It's like whatever beginnings are coming in, whatever changes you're making, maybe around this time, whatever things you might be feeling called to initiate or new things that are coming into your life, they might be more permanent. Again, kind of like that. I think I talked about it with that August 23rd new moon in Virgo. It's like there's something like, oh, if we quit smoking around this time, because Virgo can be health things and health habits, it's like, I just feel like it's more likely to stick, because this trine to Pluto is saying like deeper transformation, accessing some kind of sense of power. And also, if there is some kind of grim reality, a little bit of fearfulness, a little bit of feeling of scarcity or lack coming through, there are these energies that we can draw on with these planets of like, bringing forth this inner will, this inner feeling of transformation, or bringing forth this sort of innovative genius of like how, like, to problem solve, right? And also, I feel like this is kind of the least powerful aspect. There is a sextile to Jupiter. However, this is a separating aspect because the sun and moon are moving away from Jupiter at this time. But Jupiter's still there, I think, lending a supportive hand. Any aspect to Jupiter, I think, generally speaking, is a pretty good thing. It's a pretty positive thing. Jupiter being the greater benefic, the planet of expansion and success in opportunity. It's definitely there. Not as loud. Definitely not as loud, but still there. Okay. So let's talk about let's do a reading for each of the rising signs now. So just so you know, if you're new here, I do readings for your rising sign. I would have you listen to your rising sign or your ascendant. It's the same thing. Listen to that first. And that is, of course, dependent upon if you have an accurate birth time, to be able to calculate that. And you can calculate that for free on the web anywhere. Excuse me. And then also, if you want to look at your sun or your moon, you can certainly do that too. I would say rising sign first, and then you can weave in your sun or your moon. Maybe not all three. That's going to be a little confusing, but I would start with the rising sign. So let's go ahead and let's do that in just one moment here. Okay, Aries rising. This eclipse is in your 6th house. If this eclipse feels a little bit crunchy, like, the 6th house is considered kind of a more difficult house. It does not mean that this is a negative manifestation by any means, but the 6th house is not a comfortable place to have 2 new moons in a row, right? Because the 6th house deals with like our labor, our daily grind, how we work, where we work, who we work with, as well as our like physical health. And and oftentimes these topics may not necessarily be like the most fun, right? Sometimes actually 6th house can also be like pets and animals as well. And those certainly could be themes that are more coming up for you like around this time. So that is sort of, there's something to be paid attention to with what you're taking into your body, your physical health. I want you to be more delicate with your health right now. Now is not the time for like a bender, to get a bag of Coke or whatever. Even if it's a special occasion, like I would say, put it down, drink lots of water. Solar eclipses especially can make us just feel physically kind of sensitive. So if you're feeling, I would just be taking care of yourself. And also it could be, and also really kind of listen as well of like, this could be bringing in something new or some change connected to what you're doing for work or how you're working or what your work environment looks like. It could be speaking to, I need to kind of get real, about, because this is opposing Saturn in your 12th house. There could be something like, like kind of getting real about, like work-life balance or mental health could come in here as well. So, I don't see this as a super easy eclipse. But also this could be really pointing out too, if there are changes that need to be made or things that we need to let go of, things that we need to sort of discard, like bad habits. whether that's like our inner beliefs, things that we need to tell ourselves, or kind of finally dealing with like some mental health things. That's very possible to come in around this eclipse. There is also an emphasis to a little bit possibly on partnerships and relationships, because the ruling planet of this eclipse is Mercury, which has actually just entered your 7th house. So there is a little bit more partnership and relationship activation for you. So just FYI, that's kind of where I see this eclipse landing for you. And of course, it's going to be different kind of depending on your own personal birth chart. Taurus rising, solar eclipse happening in the 5th house. So again, releasing something, ending something, releasing bad habits, things like that are going to be connected to this eclipse. This could, there could be some event or something new possibly coming in with your children, or pregnancy, any kind of like romantic relationship, your creativity. This is not like a let's have fun and be super creative. We're going to be feeling like yay, have fun. This is more like, perhaps there is a need for a commitment in a romantic relationship. Perhaps there's some obligation connected to a child. Perhaps there's your creativity, or like there's some project that really like needs your attention. It's possible that there is some kind of snag or responsibility, obligation feeling connected to groups that you are a part of, connected to organizations and associations. It could be that you're kind of realistically assessing like a friendship at this time, or realistically assessing your hopes, wishes, and goals for the future too. So again, like those two parts of your chart are kind of loaded with this sort of like, we have to kind of get real, but there could be a new beginning coming in with those 5th house matters. So creativity, children, romance, things connected to that, but there often is like a heavier kind of quality to those things under this eclipse. Gemini rising, this solar eclipse is happening in the 4th house. As a mutable sign, you have been probably feeling this Virgo, Pisces eclipse stuff a little bit more than the average soul, because Virgo and Pisces are mutable signs, and they land in really important parts of your chart. So the 4th house of home and family, real estate, roots, ancestors, and the 10th house of professional life, your career, what you're known for, and personal reputation. I got to put on my glasses. I'm getting a headache. Are these topics that have been playing out. We did just have a lunar eclipse in Pisces a couple weeks ago in your 10th house of career, maybe having some realization, some insight, or perhaps an ending or something coming to completion over here. This eclipse kind of brings our attention more to home and family life. This is a very foundational part of your chart. It's about making home things, making things connected to family stronger. If there's any weaknesses in the foundation, it's like saying like, please address this now. This could be implementing like a new routine in the home. There could be something as dramatic as like, oh, we're moving, or there's something new connected to home here as well, or connected to real estate possibly. There could be, perhaps news that's connected to like the family or one of the parents. But there is this feeling of like realistically assessing weaknesses, or, perhaps like kind of finding this sort of home versus work balance here. Saturn did just move back into your 10th house until February 15th. So any last lessons, last licks, we could say. I think Maria D. Simone said that in her video. She was like, last licks of Saturn. I try not to watch any other astrologers' videos, to be honest, because I don't want anyone influencing me, but I just like that terminology. So some kind of mastery in career, maybe finishing up some big project, finishing up some big certification, or just some like last push. There's some last push for you with career. But yeah, it feels like we're realistically assessing something with home, or having some change or beginning come in with the home and the family life for you, Gemini rising. And also, Mercury is your ruling planet. It does rule this eclipse. Keep an eye on 5th house matters. It's almost like the solution to this might be found in creativity, might be found in hobbies, might be found in some sexual passion. I don't know how that would be possible, but I don't know your life. So because you're going to be more interested in creative stuff, in your passions, even though there's something kind of heavy going on in these two things, it's like make sure maybe to carve out some time for that as well, because that could help you move through this energy. Oh, one more thing, Gemini. Uranus stationed retrograde in your first house. So if you felt like last week, if you felt a little bit of like a jolt or a little bit of like how is my personality, myself changing, right? Because Uranus went into Gemini in July. It went into your first house of self and identity and how you express yourself. Maybe you've been wanting more freedom. Maybe you've just been doing your appearance differently, something like that. You're almost reconsidering that now, possibly. So just paying attention to that Uranus retrograde. Cancer rising. This solar eclipse is happening in the 3rd. So things connected to transportation, communication projects, your immediate environment, things connected to neighbors and siblings, your neighborhood, any kind of important correspondence. That's sort of where this interruption, this ending, this change before we have this beginning is kind of coming in for you. It could be that, hey, I have to take a very important certification. I have to study hard for something. Or there's like something pressing coming up about transportation. I have to get a new car. The timing isn't really right for a new car right now, but I kind of have to do it. Hold on, I need to like check on my kitty. 1 second. I hear someone crying outside my door. Okay, I had 2 cats that wanted to come in. Is that a sign? I don't know what that means. So Virgo is a double-bodied sign. It deals with multiples. I don't know what that means. So anywho, but yeah, there could be some sort of need for, again, studying for something important, something new coming up with transportation, or your commute somehow could change. It's like it's something involving the mind, your immediate environment, neighbors and siblings. There's a heavier energy, even though there is possibly something new. We're also maybe like releasing something. It's like, okay, this thing is outdated or outstated as well. We might be releasing something. And this is opposing Saturn in your 9th house. Remember, Saturn has moved into Pisces on September 2nd. It's going to be here until February 15th. And, Saturn in your 9th house, it's helping you kind of clarify beliefs, work on things connected to higher education and spirituality. There's no messing around here, essentially. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to kind of call it for you, Cancer rising. All right, Leo rising. The eclipse is happening. Come on, buddy. This is my kitty. Come on, honey. Get up here. All right. I got my big black cat. Let's see if you can see it. Say hi, Simon. Okay. All right. So Leo rising. The solar eclipse is happening in your 2nd house of your earned income, your paycheck, your money, your movable assets, and also self-worth and values can come in here as well. Hi, buddy. So you've had quite a bit of activation on with money, with other people's money, with how you other people's energy and resources really kind of came in with that lunar eclipse in Pisces. But this eclipse kind of feels like realistically assessing your personal earning potential, your personal finances. Like really, it could be like taking action, starting like some kind of savings plan, or this could be time of like, oh wow, I need to get a job. Like I need to figure something out here. Just because there is that kind of realistic energy from Saturn with this eclipse. So I would say be conservative with money around this time. It feels like kind of figuring out like how to stretch a dollar. This could certainly be a new beginning or some kind of new way to earn a living or new stream of income coming in during this eclipse. You could really be looking at like assessing debts as well, because this is opposing Saturn that moved back into your 8th house on September 2nd here until February 15th. So you could be really assessing debts, credit, kind of what you owe to people, figuring out how to consolidate or kind of like refinance money as well. Saturn in the 8th house could also be kind of like dealing with like trauma, dealing with this kind of stored emotion, and there could be some kind of a healing factor here. But Saturn is saying like we have to really deal with this essentially. So a lot with money stuff, I think, coming up with this eclipse, or your earning power and potential. Virgo rising. Okay, my little superstars. Oh, doing horoscopes with two kitties around me. This is interesting. Do you guys want to be astrologers? You know, my cat's opening. My cat is trying to open my ephemeris I have on the floor. I think she wants to know where the planets are going to be. So, okay. So, solar eclipse in Virgo for Virgo rising. So this is again the second new moon in a row. This has really been, I feel like, been a period of like reevaluation, new beginnings, letting things go that don't serve you somehow in your life. It could just also just be kind of like a more like just a more dramatic kind of busy time. And really kind of feeling these eclipses, maybe feeling these these interruptions in your daily life flow. I was talking to an employer of mine who was Virgo rising, and he was describing this like incident that he was having with his dog that got hit by a car and had to chase it and ran away and had to readjust like travel schedule and all this stuff. And I was like, "Aren't you Virgo rising?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" And I was like, "No reason." So um I feel like this could be really a time to clear out. This feels like we're clearing things out, especially connected to our personal essence, our vitality and physical body. We could be making some changes by simply how we present to the world, making changes with physical health as well. This would be a really great time to examine physical health. This would be time to, I think, be kind of cautious and delicate with the physical body. Don't push yourself too much around this eclipse. Drink a lot of water, get a lot of rest. You might just be feeling a little bit weird, frankly, around this eclipse, because this solar eclipses are not these magical, wonderful manifestation times that like super new agey people are presenting it to be, because they can be a more delicate time for health. Just kind of keep that in mind. So I just kind of feel like there's a big clearing out with this eclipse, because again, this eclipse is conjunct the South Node. Releasing, endings, letting things go, purging really kind of comes to mind with this eclipse. But it's like there's this big kind of cleansing that's happened energetically and also externally. So it's almost like while you're making way for these new, I think, bigger kind of new beginnings to kind of come in your life right now, whether that is personally and also in relationships, because relationships are a bigger thing for you right now too. It's like you really want to think about the letting go piece, the purging, the letting go. So there is a new beginning for you, but it's like it feels like I have to get rid of stuff. I'm purging physical body. I'm purging my physical, items. But just know, like, yeah, if this past month has felt kind of intense, you've had 2 moons in your sign and a lunar eclipse in your opposite sign in the part of your chart that deals with partnership. So FYI, I'm thinking after this eclipse, things should kind of calm down for you a little bit too. All right. Libra rising. Okay, Libra rising. I'm dating a Libra rising. This is fun. But I'm not. I'm going to get him out of my mind to just focus on the astrology. So, okay, the eclipse is happening in your 12th house. This is 2 eclipses in a row in your 12th house. The 12th house, there's two new moons, 1 eclipse, 1 regular new moon. The 12th house has to do with your shadow, mental health, spiritual health, ways that we can self-sabotage, and simply things that we do not see. This new moon kind of really, there's a real focal point on psychic baggage, on ways in which that we can harm ourselves, harm others, maybe people or situations in our life that are harmful for us. And also just a call to really check in with our subconscious mind, our spiritual guidance team, having some quiet and some rest time. This to me is a bit of a reset solar eclipse for you. It also could mark a point or like a benchmark of like looking how much progress you've made in these topics. The 12th house is not a comfortable house. It's not a comfortable place to be. Or at least for some people, it isn't. Some people thrive with 12th house stuff, but this is sort of like an invitation to really check in with yourself, check in mental health, spiritual health wise. And that is just as important as 6th house matters, which are our physical health, our work, our daily work routines, our daily grind. This past month has really put a lot of emphasis on these parts of your chart. And keep in mind that Saturn just moved back into your 6th house as well. planet of tests and limitations and delays. So there's some final things that we're learning or that we're dealing with connected to work and physical health right now. And possibly, you know, pets can also come into here. But yeah, it's like there's this like duality between mental, spiritual health and physical health, and kind of just managing both. But this solar eclipse could really kind of help you realize some things, bring in some powerful insights and, you know, revelations. And just simply maybe kind of help you see things that you just did not see before. I also wanted to point out that Mars has been in Mars, the planet of war, of combat, of physical passion, has been in Libra in your sign since for a while. Let me look. I think my cats are fighting. How funny that as soon as I talk about Mars, my cats start attacking each other. Isn't that funny? I'm going to get them out of here in a second. Y'all are killing me. All right. Okay. So Mars has been in your sign since August 6th and will finally be leaving on September 23rd. And it's going to go into your second house of money. So there's going to be some more like money motivation, really kind of keeping an eye on your pocketbook. But simply Mars getting out of your first house, I think it's going to help you feel like less on edge, essentially. Let me get my cats out of here. Y'all are killing me. Give me 1 second. I think that's all I'm going to mention for you, Libra rising. I think that's kind of it. So let's go ahead and look at Scorpio rising. Scorpio rising. This eclipse is in the 11th house. We have had a lot of activations of the 11th house. So that's friends, groups that you're a part of, also your goals and wishes and hopes for the future. Like this is a place where we really are like kind of focused on like what we, you know, what we're wanting to kind of manifest in our life. And again, we just had a lunar eclipse in your 5th house about 2 weeks ago. So maybe some completion, some culmination, some activation connected to romance, your passions, your creativity. So this eclipse in your 11th house, it's like, it's kind of giving like, there could be stuff around like really kind of either maybe like formally joining some kind of important organization or taking those things really seriously. This eclipse I really think could really be like realistically assessing your goals and hopes and wishes for the future. It's like, how am I actually going to get to where I want to go? You know, like I'm not just going to wish for it, but it's like, how are you going to work for that? Essentially, this could speak to. Keep in mind, Saturn has just moved back into your 5th house. It's going to be here till February 15th. So it's like, what lessons have you learned with romantic relationships? Your creative projects could feel like a bit arduous, or you have to sort of work on them. And there's a couple last things that you're finishing up here. But it's like, you know, these two parts of your charts are usually kind of more positive kind of parts of the chart, but there's like a Saturnian heaviness connected to these things. It's like, how am I going to achieve where I want to go? And also possibly like, hey, is this romantic relationship going anywhere? Is this project going to go anywhere? Like maybe feeling like a little bit blocked here or something too. So yeah, so this solar eclipse in Virgo kind of just feels like clearing anything out of the way. You know, there might be some fear, like some scarcity mindset. You got to kind of overcome that part of it, because sometimes Saturn can scare the shit out of us, but it's like, you know, Saturn means well, but sometimes it's like, okay, like you need to relax a little bit. So keep in mind, Scorpio rising, if you've been feeling a little weird, you know, the past month and a half or so, Mars has been in your 12th house. Mars is your ruling planet. You know, Mars is a planet of passion and anger and war and how you go after what you want, really. It's like the planet of action and energy. And it's been in your 12th house. The 12th house is like our subconscious mind, like our shadow. Mars has been in the sign of its detriment. And generally like kind of keeping track of your ruling planet and what it's doing. So if you've been feeling like a little bit like a little bit of like a lack of control, that's a really major thing with Mars and Libra going through your 12th house. You know, a little bit of like lack of control, maybe feeling like you're not usually up to your normal kind of courage or vitality. Mars is going to go into Scorpio, I think the following day or 2 days later. hold on, let's see. The following day, actually, September 22nd. And you're going to be feeling more magnetic, sexier, more passionate, more ability to really kind of go after those things that you're wanting. So that's going to kind of help to kind of charge up your energy a little bit. We'll talk about more with next week's video, but just FYI, if you're feeling like just like I don't like, or just having some stuff going on with mental health, if sleep has been affected, Mars going into Scorpio should help. Just FYI. So let's look at Sagittarius rising. Okay, so this eclipse is in the 10th house for you, so more connected to career, your professional aims, authority figures, your personal and professional reputation. There's been some major activations in that part of your chart for you. We had a new moon about a month ago in that part of your chart. We just had a lunar eclipse in your 4th house of home and family about 2 weeks ago. So this solar eclipse, to me, it's kind of saying like clearing things out of the way, getting out of your own way. There could be something new coming in career for you. Again, there's this realistic assessment or feeling like if there is something new coming in a career, it feels like maybe like a bigger undertaking, or it feels like you're under some kind of like responsibility or obligation, or perhaps there's this tension going on with home and family matters as well at the same time. So this could be speaking to a beginning or a change happening in career, but we're kind of letting go of something first, or we're like releasing some toxic energy, or we're like dealing with something, again, kind of realistically assessing our responsibilities or obligations to family, because Saturn here, it may not even be home and family itself. It could just be like really kind of feeling like you're making sure that the foundations of your life are secure enough for you to have some changes kind of go on in your career. And again, it may not be your career itself. It could be like, like an authority figure goes, there's like a change in a boss, or there's a change in the workplace, something connected to that. But it does feel these eclipses have been taking place in major tent poles of your life, major things that kind of hold our lives together. So it does feel like a more active eclipse for you. Capricorn rising. The solar eclipse in Virgo is happening in your 9th house. So this could be, so 9th house themes that we would bring up here are going to be kind of similar to what I talked about in your new moon video in Virgo. So things connected to higher education, to spirituality, your beliefs, things connected to travel, the courts as well, like the legal system. Things connected to other cultures, kind of anything to do with sort of higher mind expansion and also travel. So you have had some activations between your 9th and 3rd houses. These are houses that are about the mind, about communication, about travel, about what we believe, about how we kind of get around, about where travel. So perhaps we've had a trip, perhaps I don't know, perhaps we've had a trip. What a silly sorry. Sometimes I just say things and I'm like, okay, that was dumb. Anyway, so this double kind of new moon that you're having in the 9th house, this one particular feels like, hey, if we're wanting to take a trip, we're kind of realistically assessing how we're going to do that. Hey, there's something coming up with education. It could be like, okay, where am I going to get the money, or where am I going to get the time? Or perhaps it's like looking at some sort of like certification or degree program, but it's like a big undertaking, right? So something connected to that. It also could really be like clarifying your beliefs. It could just be a lot of activations on like your own personal philosophy, your own personal kind of spirituality. But there is a sort of realistic assessing of these matters here. The ruling planet of this eclipse is Mercury, and it has just moved into your 10th house of career. There could be extra kind of career emphasis going on, or like where, like career maybe feels like a little bit busier over like the next few weeks. There's just more meetings, we're networking, we're interviewing. Work is maybe like a little bit busier. And so there could be a career kind of work component on top of this eclipse for you as well. Aquarius rising. This eclipse is happening in the 8th house. Like Leo rising, there's a lot of focus on your money and material resources over the past month. So this is a second new moon in a row in your 8th house, which deals with other people, their money, and their energy. So, the 8th house is like credits, credit, debt, student loans, but also things like financial aid, like financing for like a house, government, sort of like more like kind of like welfare programs or social security. It also has to do with inheritances and wills and trust and things like that. If you're self-employed, it has to do with other people's, with like your clients' money. So we just had a lunar eclipse 2 weeks ago in the 2nd house of personal finances. So maybe there was some sort of change in income or some kind of income source, something happening possibly with your money or movable assets here around the time of that eclipse on September 4th. This the second new moon in a row here, perhaps you're realistically assessing debt. Perhaps you're realistically assessing finances. Perhaps we're wanting to refinance, but there's something like kind of in the way right now, or there's like extra paperwork that we're having to kind of move through. The 8th house can also be trauma, like buried emotion. So it's like you're really kind of getting clear on like boundaries in relationships. Like, do you pay this bill and then I pay this bill, or like, are we both kind of coming to the table like the same way with like trust and intimacy and kind of these more like intimate relationships? It also could be like really clearing out something or purging something connected to stored emotional trauma. Could also be very possible here. This the 8th house can be kind of a spooky place. Meaning this might be a good time to actually whip out your tarot cards, whip out your oracle cards, and kind of connect to spirit, because the 8th house has to do with like the psychic and the occult. So it's like getting answers from sources that you otherwise wouldn't be available to you could possibly kind of come through with this eclipse, especially because Mercury, the ruler of this eclipse, is in the 9th house for you right now, so which is also divination. It's the house of God. So, but this kind of wraps up the ongoing stuff with money and resources during this eclipse. Pisces rising. Hello, Pisces. So this eclipse happens in the 7th house for you. A lot of partnership activations, a lot of stuff in relationships, business, platonic, friendship, romantic, happening for you over the past month. Clarifying relationships, developing them, possibly new beginnings in relationships, possibly endings in relationships coming with this eclipse as well, because we are realistically assessing if these relationships are a good fit for us, if we're a good fit, or if we are a good fit for them. Sometimes I do look at the 7th house as like anything that we are in partnership with. So this could be like our employer sometimes, like our job, anything that we are kind of in relationship with. Reminder, we just had a lunar eclipse in your 1st house in your ascendant 2 weeks ago. Big realizations, big insights, maybe just feeling emotional, maybe feeling just like a little weird. Like there's just like, I feel weird, I don't know why. It could be a very lunar eclipse thing. Reminder that Saturn has moved into your 1st house for one final little test. You're clarifying something about yourself. We're pushing through on a health thing, or we're pushing through on like personal goals. Reminder, if you're getting in your own way, to not go into escapism, but to really clearly deal with it, because there's a feeling of clearly dealing with our problems, realistically assessing solutions. But again, the focus for you with this eclipse is, I think, on relationships, on partnership. So there could be a beginning coming in of like, maybe taking something to the next level, but it is a commitment feeling. It's like we are committed to each other. We are, this is not something that we are sort of taking on lightly. This is not like, oh, I had a spark with someone, I might turn into something. This is like, no, we're joining forces. I'm taking on your problems, you're taking on mine, babe. Like that's kind of what it is. So clearly reassessing the reality, I think, of relationships is sort of what is coming up for you with this eclipse. Is there anything? I think that's it. I think that's where I'm going to leave it. But finally, after this eclipse, we can take a breather when this is done. Pisces rising. So, okay, that's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I hope everyone makes use of this energy, that this energy manifests itself positively. Again, if you're like, what's going on? I don't like this. I'm like, it's Saturn. We will get through it. It's an eclipse. We will get through it. I will see you next week. We're going to be talking about Venus in Virgo and Mars in Scorpio next week. So stay tuned for that. And again, drink lots of water, get some rest, stay safe. Until next time, everybody.